JT, afternoon. Thanks for joining me.
Afternoon, Jay.
This is episode 1 of the Better People, Better Players podcast. The reason we're doing this podcast is to try and cut through the noise. I want to educate parents, teachers, anyone involved in youth sport around all the factors affecting participation, and hopefully the kids get the best deal out of their time in sport. So it's quite fitting that I've got you on for the first episode, because my first question is, I've actually noticed an uptake in the number of kids calling me coach in the recent years. So obviously you've got your history as a PE teacher. I'm wondering if you can explain that, why are more students coming to me and referring to me as coach, even kids as young as 3?
Thank you very much anyway for inviting me on your podcast. Very happy to be here, and hopefully I'll be able to guide some parents and give some feedback from my side as sports coaches. I was an ex-PE teacher as well, and now owner of ISM Sports. So getting onto that there, the representation of a coach, I think it's sometimes seen as a release sometimes for a child when they come to play sports. I think it's situations when they play sport, they're happy, and when they come into let's say an environment where they like playing that sport, I think that it's like they're happy, they want to learn, and hopefully as a coach you're there to guide them.
And you touched on it there, obviously your time as a PE teacher, now obviously a successful owner of ISM Sports. What did you take from your time as a PE teacher that you've moved on into your business career, but also helped you lead coaches, coaching teams? Because obviously PE teaching is quite different, but I'm sure there's skills there that you carried forward.
I think it was great to get the parents' rapport, especially when you're a PE teacher, because you get everybody in the school. So even the kids that are not that sporty, they come in, and it's great to see them try new sports. Great to see them from an early age, and you see the development. You see them from 3 years old in Dubai. They come to school very early, and then you see them progress through, and then hopefully you'll be able to then aid them to then hopefully further their career in a sport maybe that they're a bit stronger in. And
that's a good point. I think you mentioned there, you get all the kids. There's often a phrase that's banded around, sport for all. What's your opinion on sport for all? Do you think it is for everyone, or do you think there is a population of kids that are more attracted to sport? I mean, what's your opinion on, is sport for all?
I would like to say yes. However, in some cases, some sports don't fit all. So you're in a case where the child might like to try and play it, but they physically might not be able to. It's our job as coaches and PE teachers maybe to try and help them develop them skills, and then hopefully them to actually create and keep going.
Do you think there's a difference then between coach and PE teacher?
I don't think so. I think a PE teacher has a lot of the same traits as a coach. When you're taking your sessions, maybe as a coach you might have more developed players coming to you for a specific sport, but as a PE teacher you might have a range of levels, so you have to kind of differentiate the level, and after differentiating the level then you go into areas where you might be able to help them learning. But I think as a coach sometimes you're getting maybe more developed players coming, grouping them together, and also you might get beginners as well coming together, and you might have that problem as a PE teacher is you might have the beginners with the more developed ones, so that's hard, but then you have to adapt, and that's where as a PE teacher it can be seen quite hard because you've got different levels of that there, and as a coach maybe you might be finding it a little bit easier because you might have the children of the same ability.
Yeah, you've managed to split the groups, I think, into your teams and so on. You just mentioned there about kids coming to you who maybe want to specialise in a sport then, so in your experience, what age does that start? I mean, is that something that you see coming down in age? Is it now students who are younger, kids who are younger trying to specialise in a certain sport?
I think it's brilliant in Dubai that there's so much sports that the children can play, and it's out there. In the schools they do after school clubs from the age of 3. When I was 3 years old there definitely wasn't that option, but over in Dubai I think it's brilliant that there's that such a young age. And getting back to the point where you said there about playing, then I think that the 3-year-old, 4, 5, 6, they've got so much options. So I would say a range of sports is great, because if you can do a different one, then you might find out that your child is good at different sports rather than just sticking to one. So maybe I would say try a few.
Yeah, obviously you've got a little boy of your own now, so what's going to be your tact and your approach? Is it going to be a case of put him in as many sports as you can?
My wife is Irish, so we've got a few Irish sports that hopefully we'll give him a go at as well. But as I say, I would try and let the boy choose himself. If he can come to me and say he wants to go and play a sport with his friends, then that will be perfect for me. Of course, I'll be there for guidance. If he ever needs guidance for any sports, hopefully I'll be able to find out myself about the information needed, or if it's in a sport that I actually am a professional in, I'll be very helpful in that case. So.
What type of sports parent are you going to be then, JT? Are you going to be on the sideline shouting instructions and cheering them on, or are you going to be the quiet, reserved parent? How are you going to approach that?
I would like to feel like I'll be the quiet, reserved one. I'm only saying that because coming from the coaching side now, from being a coach, I feel like you've got a real grip of your players that play in your sport with you if you're a coach, and they listen to you. So it's hard then if the parent is saying something different. Yep. So for me, I won't be that parent shouting and screaming. I'll be the parent just taking it in and letting my little boy play the sport. So it will be a case of him finding out what he likes first, and then listening to the coach and so on. And if he comes to me for guidance, if he wants a little bit of feedback, of course I'll be able to give it to him. But I'll definitely be one that is supportive of him, but I'll be asking him to listen to the coach and not me. Yeah,
I think that'll be a challenge now, won't it? Obviously being a parent of your own, and you're going to see it through different eyes as a parent now, so that'll be the challenge, obviously, as we see Oscar joining the sport. So what I wanted to speak to you about, obviously, is as a PE teacher, we've had this, not a battle, but there's definitely been a conversation for a number of years around club versus school. I've had parents come to me, I've had students coming to me with clashes in schedule, reasons they can't play school sport because they've got outside commitments. So I'm quite keen to hear from you in terms of developing a club culture, which I know you've done really well with ISM. You've got teams playing now in the leagues with football. How important is it to develop that club culture and get buy-in from parents and students and kids to feel part of a bigger picture, a team?
Yeah, I think the club culture, we try and personalise a little bit more than a school because of the amount of numbers that we're dealing with. A coach will have a team of maybe 10 to 15 people just to worry about that amount of children. So when they come into the club culture, I feel we want them to feel special. We want them to feel like they're wanted, and this experience of you coming to ISM is going to be one that they're going to enjoy. So I feel like as a school, it's harder for you because you're having to deal with the volume of parents.
Absolutely.
It's a lot more, and it's harder to then to like personalize the product. And I feel like we can do that, especially in ISM, because of the numbers that we've got with our children, and they've got their own coach and so on. In an ideal world, obviously we would like it to be separate, that the school doesn't overlap, but they're so lucky in Dubai where they get so much that their school football is brilliant because there's trainings, then there's games, and then also the club culture, there'll be training as games as well. Now, when I was going back, I only trained once for my club and trained once for the school, and then the matches would be, but it's a lot more in Dubai, especially, I think all over as well. There's more now that the kids are at, so it's harder. They need to get that right balance. I could see the challenge for the PE teacher and the school, because like we said earlier, that the kid is coming in to maybe a personalised situation and maybe with advanced level children, and that might be more than the school environment. So the parent might favour to come to the club rather than the school, even though at school I see the importance of the school because it's their friends, it's their colleagues, and so on. So like I said, it's just if you can get a balance to it. It's
a tricky one. I think we'd all agree. I think that the aim here is that the kids get opportunities to play sport, and that unfortunately there's times when the schedule clashes, or there's cases of overload in the kids in terms of how much sport they play. I think certainly relationships like this, where we work with outside providers and we work with academies, and they know what we do and we know what they do. I think if you look at it locally in terms of the UAE, rugby does that really well, probably does it more than football in terms of scheduling the big events on the weekend and so on. But it's good to hear from your side. I think the personalisation is something we strive to get in PE teaching, but you're completely right. The numbers of students we've got playing, it's hard to achieve. You mentioned something there which I want to pick up on, is you trained once for your team when you played, and obviously you played to a very good level in football. So what's different now in the modern day to when you played football as a kid back in the day?
I think maybe the demand as well, and also that there's just more options available. I feel like when I was in my local team, it was a parents led. It wasn't a club like us led. So we didn't have like the resources of the professional coach coming in, and actually teaching. It was normally just a parent. It was great that they gave up their time for it as well. I'm very thankful for that. But then it wasn't. They had their job. So then it was a little, but now, especially in Dubai, we've got professional coaches that are being able to teach your children. So with that, we can put on 3 or 4 sessions a week. Some children are training 3 times a week and then playing games, which is like brilliant for them. Like, they're getting so much football. Some children are then training twice a week in the mornings, as well as playing for a school. So they could be seeing 6 or 7 sessions a week. So I feel like it's just the availability there, and if I was a child now, I would love that as well. I would feel like this is amazing, every day I can go play football. And maybe the climate as well in Dubai helps, where it's always going to be nice. So you're going to have a perfect training condition as well, with
great facilities as well.
In other parts of the world in the winter, there's snow, there's rain, the pitch is not available to play on.
The UK,
in Europe in general, I think though. But with the introduction of 3G pitches in Europe, I feel like that they're probably now catching up as well. I just feel like the conditions are brilliant in Dubai, especially to do lots of training. So what would you say then in terms of the argument that kids don't play enough no more? Where would you sit if you were to respond to the argument that kids can be overcoached? They're in front of a coach too often, and there's not that opportunity to play, learn mistakes, adapt their play from that. It's unsupervised. So where would you sit on the argument that kids could be overcoached? I do agree. I feel like if the child, again, I would go from the feeling of the child. If the child is wanting it to come to football, I don't see it ever harming. But if there's slight negativity around, do I have to come to football? That's when you know that they'll come in and they won't apply themselves as much as a child that would be there because they really want to be there and learn. So I feel like if they really are enjoying it, then feed them with it. But if they're not, as a parent especially, I think that's a time where you have to look at it and go, right, okay, maybe he's doing too much and maybe we might need to look into another sport, or maybe not at all. Again, I'm kind of thinking from a view of Dubai, where lots of parents have got long jobs, hours. So sometimes they might live in an area where there's not that park just to go and play I did, like with my friends. We didn't have that opportunity over here because the parent might be working long hours. So that's where I feel like the club environment here is really important, because they get that time where they would normally just be playing in the park, but now they'll come into a club session, an ISM Sports Football Academy session, and then they'll get that release because they've already come home for 2 hours and they're ready. They've got that fire again to
and that's really interesting to hear that. One, you've got an awareness of it, and I think the response around, if they love it, feed them it. I think that was your phrase that you used. And
and if they don't, stop.
I completely agree. I think it's the first thing that should drive the choices in what a kid does. If they're engaged in it, they enjoy it, they're more likely to overcome the challenges and continue to do it. Obviously, you'll have parents who might not be as aware of those cues. What would that look like then to a parent if we were to advise parents on what to look out for it might not be the case that the student is, or the kid is vocal with that and approaches daddy and says, I'm not quite enjoying it. So what would you say to parents to look out for?
Yeah, I mean, I would look out for signs like them saying they're tired or they can't find their kit.
Yeah.
And there's kind of excuses kind of to delay. Maybe look at things like that there. And also as well, maybe like if they are not enjoying it as much, try and ask them why. It might be that the group development is not good enough, or it might be too strong, where they might want to just drop down a level and things like this and actually enjoy. I feel like us at ISM as well, we deal with lots of children that are starting at different times. So some children are starting very late in their career at 12 years old, that we might see a child for the first time, and we might have coached a kid from 3 years old for 3 times a week. So the amount of hours that 3-year-old has on this 12-year-old, but that's our job then as coaches to still find the right level and to make the sessions fun. So also that, because they're not on iPads, they're in coming to ISM, and they're doing healthy, exercises and hopefully enjoying it at the same time.
Yeah, I think the iPads, I'm really glad you brought that up. One of the things I wanted to ask you was, you've obviously done this for a number of years now. You've built a huge club with a number of coaches working under you. What's different? What have you noticed over that time with ISM and prior to ISM as a sports coach and your time as a PE teacher? What's different with the kids now? Because certainly from a PE teacher's perspective, the involvement of technology and iPads, I think certainly it was escalated during the pandemic. If I give an example, like when I'm on duty in school around the canteen, quite often I'll see the kids on the laptops. Instead of talking with the pals or eating the food, they've got the screen in front of them. So that's certainly something I've noticed. What have you noticed on the football field or coaching wise? What's different with the kids now?
I think the main notice was after COVID, and this is a positive, because everyone was locked up and we couldn't enjoy the things that we've been enjoying the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
And we came back, and then we've just noticed the demand of children that want to play, which is great. Regarding the iPads, I feel like that as a parent, it's a guarantee. They obviously know that they're not going to use the iPads when they're with us, doing a multiple of sports. We do a range of sports at ISM, it's not just football. And obviously we're not doing any screen contact time. So I think that's where the power of sport goes above this. And that's where a parent, even if it's an after school club with something that we do in schools, that we would come in to deliver, similar to yourselves doing that, the parent would know. And that's where you maybe get a lesser child that might not enjoy it as much as others, but the parent knows that they're going to not be on their screens and they're going to be doing healthy activities.
Distraction. My sister's got 3 girls, and we were talking about this a number of years ago about the influx of phones and so on, and I'm glad that she took my advice on the girls horse ride, dance, swim. That time doing activity is not on the screens. That's certainly a tactic I would advise parents as well to push on with. Let's talk about parents. Obviously you're in the football game, you're in the youth football game. We all know that certain parents can get carried away with aspirations of that, and obviously you've got experience of it in the UK and what it takes to move through an academy. Before we look at parents' response and input, can you just frame for me and parents who are watching how difficult it is to reach the level of professional football?
Extremely difficult. If you look at a youth setup in the UK, you're looking at 1% of players going through that youth setup, which is probably around 200 players that are getting coaching from the age of 7 years old all the way up to 16, and at 16 then they'll be offered a scholarship. And if they get the scholarship, then they'll get that for 2 years, and then they might get offered a pro. Now from that process you're looking at 1 or 2 players. So it's very, very difficult to get there. Expectations, I would never ever, my little Johnny who comes to football, if he wants to be a footballer, I would never ever say anything bad about that. And I would try and, if he's only 5, 6, 7, of them younger years, why kill his dream? Keep him enthusiastic about it and try and, promote and push him for that. But I think as a realisation for a parent, you have to be extremely, extremely good. I would go to the extent of, if your child is good in your team, is he good then for the league? And if he's one of the best players in the league, then you've got a good player. If he's a good player for the team, he might be an average player in the next bracket. So, like I said, it's very, very hard to judge. Now, also, to flip that, people can be late developers. Not all children are great when they first come. They have growth spurts, and then they, so I've had children as well leave me at 14, 15 who were not very good players, and now they've got a full-time career in professional football. So I've seen both sides of it, and the dedication and what you've got to do, especially in the football environment, is very, very hard to make it as a professional footballer.
I'm sure you've had the conversations with parents around selection and so on. So I'm glad that you shared the 1%. I think it might even be less now, I think, in terms of players making the grade from academy level. We're not even talking schoolboy. I'll just share a story on a similar topic. We had FA tutors come out and deliver a course a number of years ago. The particular FA tutor was based at a Premiership academy. Now, his role was special projects. He was designated to look after players who were earmarked to kick on towards the first team. And he actually shared with the guys on the course that they would bring players in to the academy setup to support the development of one or two particular players. Now, they wouldn't be upfront with parents, they wouldn't share that information, but that just gives you a nature of the how difficult it is to make the grade, but also the makeup of an academy is geared towards elite, producing elite players in the Premier League and so on. So that can be something that parents should out there tread carefully. Now, let's get on to parents then. So what advice would you have for a parent of a boy or a girl who is excelling in their club and is starting to make waves in the league then? I know regionally where we are in the UAE, it's a little bit different. We don't have access to tap into the academies, but what advice would you give those parents of kids who've got kids who excel?
What I would do is I would look into trying to find out information about European clubs as well. If they are excelling, then to try and actually reach out and maybe have a trial. I've had children that have been with me at the age of 12 to 14, have gone to England and had a trial and got into the academy. They've actually then moved from here and they've actually moved across.
Family as well?
Family as well. So, okay. And that is still a big gamble because they're still only 14 and they've not yet reached the end goal of being the professional footballer. Also as well, I've had younger players of the age of 8 to 10 years that have gone for a week or two trial, and then they are then as good, not better, but they're as good as the academy boys. So then the realisation is they're on par with the boys of that age group, and then they've always kept tabs on the clubs, and the clubs have been nice enough to invite them back. So that is another thing that maybe I would look into if they are really, really excelling. Now, also, there are summer camps that are ran in different European countries as well that are associated with academies that are also good to look, and they might have links in there. But for me personally, I've got a few contacts in the UK that I've personally set up the children to go there to have a trial, and it's then a relationship for that. I could count on one hand though the amount I've been here for 10 years doing ISM, and I've only ever put back 4 children for that. And they were excelling. They were actually playing the year up in their age group, and they were still one of the best players. So it's not one that I would just look at and over one season as well. It's kind of ones that a body of work of maybe 2 or 3 years that I've looked at, and then I've made that call, because also I wouldn't want to waste my colleagues' time in the UK if the player was not good enough.
So what are you looking for then over 2 or 3 years? What are you looking for with that boy or girl?
I'm looking at attitude. I'm looking at how their willingness to learn, to listen to the coach, and how they then adapt themselves in a match situation. Obviously the training as well is coming with that, but in the match, that's where you see all of the fruits that you're coaching them in the training sessions. That's where they produce, and if they can do that in the match, that's when you know that they're listening to you as a coach, and they're thriving. So,
do you see a change in the UAE then? Obviously with the restructuring now with the UAE FA, opening up the third division to expatriate clubs. Do you think that will change in the foreseeable future, and there'll be a pathway here for boys and girls to go and play professional?
Yeah, I don't see that being a bad thing. I think it's great that the FA have done that. They've introduced that third division, and now it's not just an amateur level, it's a professional level, which gives a bit more accreditation to it. What I would say is that, again, it's very hard to bridge that gap because it's adults. So the child of 16 years old will be playing a different way to how adult football is, but that's similar in the UK and so on. That jump is a big jump because it's a different way of playing football. But then obviously, it's great that they do that, and hopefully then they might be able to gain experience playing men's football, and then that will give them good stead if they're going to then play in Europe for 17, 18,
I think it's not all doom and gloom. It's the message really for parents. I think one of the things that I've noticed in the schools is the collegiate pathway and sending athletes to the States for scholarships with universities. Obviously, they've got a good base here with the academics, and they've got a football background or a sporting background. So that's another option I think parents.
I think that's great as well, by the way, the college pathway, because it gives the child 3 extra years of development. Yeah. It's not about straight away 16-year-old, it's either football or nothing. In America, I think that pathway is brilliant because they take academics alongside the sport. So if you come out of it not actually being a professional, you've still got your academics to fall back on as well, and I think that's a really good pathway for a lot of children.
I think with Messi there as well, it's only going to continue to grow, the football in the States. So
over there at the moment.
JT, what I want to ask all people who come on the podcast is around what else sport gives the young people and the kids and so on. The mantra in my school is that it builds better people. And we speak about kindness and attitude and resilience and so on. So from your perspective, in your setup of what you've got at ISM, what do your coaches try and promote in terms of outcomes for the players and the kids who take part in sport beyond the physical? So not just a case of getting quicker or better technically.
I think we try and teach them a little bit of discipline. We like to treat them how to act as people as well. So for instance, a very small little example, when we come in, a player comes in, they always have to go up to the coach, give them a little high five, or shake their hand, and then just speak to them straight away. That's a little thing that we've done in ISM, and it's just a nice little hello to the coach rather than running off and trying to get the ball straight away. They can come in to just do that as well. So discipline, I would say, that being one. Also social skills, which we find that especially now that iPads and so on, a lot of people are not interacting face to face. So we feel like the sport, and especially togetherness. Let's say they've worked really hard in the week and they're training, and then they go out and then they play really well. They win, they lose. If they enjoy that moment as a team, that is something that you can't take up that. If you could bag up that feeling as a team. And winning, that is just like, you can't pay for that. It's just brilliant to see children enjoy doing things that you, as a coach, you're so proud of them to do that. And then hopefully the end goal is that they like it, they stay, and then they enjoy their experience at ISM. Yeah,
it's brilliant. I think it's definitely something I'm going to take away from this talk today, that togetherness. I think you're completely right. If kids work towards a common goal and they achieve that, I think they'll reflect on what they've done in the week, the building up to it, which will only pay dividends. Then I'm sure they'll come back eager the following week to work together again. So that's a really good point. JT, listen, thank you very much for your time. It's been really interesting to hear from a coach's perspective in terms of what you try and achieve at ISM, and your awareness, I think, what is probably the best way to put it, of the issues that parents might come across with their boys playing football. So just to finish, if anyone's interested in getting in touch with ISM, how's best to reach out to you guys? Where are you? Where's your venues? Where'd you play?
We've got lots of venues all over Dubai. We've got Southview School and DIA Emirates Hills as our main football academies. We also run tennis. We've got Horizon School and tennis. We've got Sunmark School, Regent School. There's lots of things there. What I'll do is I'll give you my email, and then you can flag that up. And then if the parents would like to click on the link, then they can go straight into our website. So Great.
Brilliant. JT, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.